Council. Are you familiar with the speaking protocol?
I am, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anslow Parish Council continues to object to this application, primarily on the grounds of highway infrastructure, but also the material reduction in separation of our village from Burton and the loss of landscape. The proposed development extends from outwards right up to the boundary of the Anslow Parish, and our community would be significantly affected. The resultant traffic flows from this development alone would have a material and detrimental impact on the local highway infrastructure. Add the cumulative impact of traffic flows from potential developments at Red House Farm, Harehedge Lane and the approved development at Tuckbury North, we could see up to an additional 1,700 properties. This could bring anything up to between 2,000 and 3,000 vehicles into the existing highway infrastructure, which already struggles very badly at various peak times. Already existing traffic has resorted to finding rat runs through the surrounding villages of Anslow, Taton Hill, Stretton and Rollston, using inadequate minor local roads and narrow and bendy lanes as they seek to gain access to the major A38 arterial road. The pressure on the local roads and country lanes serving Anslow is already a major issue for its parishioners, who are making this a key concern in the Anslow neighbourhood plan. The key issue for any development on the western fringes of Burton is getting traffic to and from the A38, which will be further intensified by large developments at Lawns Farm, Branston and South Branston. Currently, we are unaware of any provision for a strategic Western Relief Road long term, or the provision in the short term of a spine road linking Upper Outwards Farm, Red House Farm and Lawns Farm to create a route to and from the A38, taking traffic flows away from Anslow, Taton and Shobnall. It is about preserving the character of these settlements, the quality of their residents' lives, road safety and viable routes for commercial and business needs. Provision for new highways needs to be made now at the planning stage for the various developments to ensure there is the physical space and conditions for them to happen at an appropriate time.
You have 1 minute left.
And provide the opportunity for developers to contribute to their financial cost. We and our parishioners are also very concerned about the loss of landscape and particularly the significant reduction in the separation of Anslow from Burton that would result from the development of Upper Outwards. We have from the outset been reasonably supportive of a smaller scale of development of around 300 dwellings at either Upper Outwards Farm or Harehedge Lane, and we feel this scale of development is more easily absorbed into the existing highway infrastructure, provided there are improvements to the junction at Outwards Cross, and they would have less impact on the separation of Anslow village and reduce the loss of landscape.
Thank you. Mr. John Anderson. Are you familiar with the speaking procedures?
I've done it once before, so...
And you're happy?
The mic's on, isn't it, when the red light's on, yeah?
Okay.
Good afternoon. I am John Anderson, one of the founder members of Friends of Outwards, which represents thousands of residents. We object to this development and ask that it be refused on the following grounds. The application received over 1,800 letters of objection, a record number of objections for East Staffs. Preferred Options was published last year. 2D was well supported when put out to public consultation. 2D does not include Upper Outwards. ESB had no consultation with the local residents on this site. There was no public consultation on the substantial changes to the local plan, particularly housing requirements. This amount of housing is not justified by projected population growth. This development will deny this and future generations of Outwards the ability to shape their neighbourhood as laid out in the Localism Act. This should be adequate to refuse permission under the Localism Act. Urban sprawl caused by this large-scale residential estate will destroy the area's natural assets and change the character of the area forever. The developers' traffic assessments use artificially low trip rates and growth projections to conceal the true impact on local roads. The numbers of houses proposed on nearby sites have substantially increased, thus rendering travel assessments inaccurate and irrelevant. There is no scope to increase traffic capacity on nearby roads. Any increase in traffic will overwhelm the roads in Outwoods and all those in nearby suburbs and villages. Problems due to high volumes of traffic on nearby roads are very well publicised. The two entry and egress points both adjoin Beam Hill Road, making it busy and dangerous. Lack of employment on or near to the site will force the residents to travel by car, generating a lot of traffic.
You have 1 minute left.
Proposed travel plans and temporary bus subsidies will not avoid this. Why did ESB invite the developer to resubmit plans and set up a special planning meeting to deal with it just before the appeal? This proposal provides no benefit to the existing community. It will destroy a pleasant semi-rural neighbourhood and severely compromise surrounding villages. Please refuse this application before it sets an awful precedent. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Richard Hall, isn't it? Richard Hall? Could I ask you to take a seat, Mr. Hall? Can you take a seat, please? It has to be recorded. It does have to be recorded, so if you could take a seat, please. Apologise for any inconvenience. Is the microphone switched on? The microphone needs to be switched on. You have 3 minutes to speak, and I will remind you. It's on. Sit.
Just press it.
Sit. Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes to speak, and after 2 minutes, I will remind you you have 1 minute left.
My name is Richard Hall. I was born in the parish of Anslow, one of 5 children, who all attended Anslow School, as did my children and grandchildren. After reading the views expressed by the local village councils, I now found that there is not much to add. However, access to development and Anslow School. Referring to the site access points, both of these seem to be situated where the road is in a dip, with not enough clear view of oncoming traffic from either direction, and would appear to be where vehicles would drive up an incline before joining Beam Hill Road. At a meeting held at Anslow Village Hall, a representative who was presumably from Hallam's sought to convince the villagers that the traffic through Anslow would not increase to any great extent. I believe this is nonsense. 950 houses and 1,500 cars. Probably at least another 500 cars will travel through Anslow. I own land adjoining Anslow School and am convinced that over the last 2 years there has been a significant increase in cars and lorries through the village. This is also obvious to our very good lollipop lady, Mrs. Jane Bailey, who appears to take her life in her hands on a daily basis when the school is open, as she halts the traffic for the children crossing. Bearing in mind that the school has 120 pupils, and at the beginning and end of the school day, there can also be up to 60 cars parked wherever they can find a space. How Staffordshire County Council could build a new school on 2 right-angle bends without parking facilities is just beyond belief. However, should the
You have 1 minute
development
left.
ever be passed, the company concerned should be compelled to construct a bypass starting the Beam Hill side of the village hall and rejoining on the Hopley corners. Only then would Anslow return to a peaceful rural village. Access and drainage. When reading the objections voiced by all of the local village councils, I am not aware of much concern regarding the surface water runoff. Bearing in mind that the site consists of 160 acres and it is all farmland, mostly arable, which at present obviously absorbs most of the rainfall. If the site is developed and 950 houses are built, plus a primary school, nursery, 500 square metres retail, a health centre, plus the entire infrastructure, where will the water go? The site is mainly a quite steep valley, and it would appear that all of the water must go under the A511.
Sorry, that is your time up.
Time up.
Thank you.
Slow reader.
Okay. Can I call on the agent, Mr. Christopher Howe, please? I assume you're familiar with speaking, but
I am, thank you,
thank
Chair.
you, but I do have to ask.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Huff from Sigma Planning, acting for Hallam Land. I just want to refer, first of all, to the borough vision and the national vision, which is for economic growth. And the borough has applied for growth status, and that's been granted, and the growth programme is moving forward. Now, in order to achieve that growth progress, you need housing delivered to complement it. You need market housing, you need affordable housing, you need specialised housing, and you need executive housing to attract management to the area and balance the housing stock. Now, you've heard that there's new evidence from Anna Miller earlier that there's a higher number of houses required, up from 9,000 to 11,700. That's an extra 2,700 houses. And you haven't got a 5-year housing land supply based on this. Therefore, you need to release sites to deliver housing. And that is a change since you previously considered this application. And the land at Outwards can deliver those houses. It can deliver all the types, the affordable, the executive, and the special needs. And the community hub will deliver jobs and community facilities in the primary school, health centre, the local shops, and a community hall. Now, the site has been very carefully assessed by an environmental impact assessment, and the scheme proposed, as you can see on the drawing over there, is landscape-led. And in fact, virtually half of the site is going to be left as green infrastructure, and that will be national forest planting, landscaped areas, wildlife habitat, public open space, and a completely new network of footpaths and cycle links. So in this impact assessment, no overriding constraints were identified and no issues have been raised by professional officers at all. Now, we're very aware of the local residents' concerns about highways. Those have been assessed in very great detail, all the junctions away from the site as well as the access to the site, and those of you who have read the transport assessment will understand the detail that it's been gone into. Thank you. There's no objection from the Highway Authority. And whilst we recognise the concerns of local residents, those are not borne out by analysis. So what we propose to address this is mitigation of junctions, and the details of that are in the TA, but also an ongoing liaison with local residents' representatives in terms of regular meetings, so that if there are problems with construction traffic or any of the junctions, there is a channel for these to be made known. In this way, the issue, if it arises, can be addressed and locals will have a voice on an ongoing basis. We want this to be a development that everyone can be proud of and would ask you to grant consent today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Staples.
Thank you, Chairman. I object to this application. I objected to the original one, and I still strongly object to this one. This application is for 950 houses, and I consider this application simply too large. We are still in the development of our local plan, and although I understand and I listened to the update from Anna Miller and her statement about our 5-year land supply, I consider that this application does cover the adverse impact, and I think on those grounds it should be refused. It talks about a sustainable development, and I do not consider this application sustainable. This is for 950 houses, plus the amenities, plus the school, as well as the equivalent of a village hall, all using 2 accesses for vehicles only from Beam Hill. There are insufficient accesses onto this site, and even more so as far as pedestrians